Hi everyone, welcome to my channel for some Guardium collectors administration considerations based on my experience as professional services with IBM and my recent practical experience at AIM, where I manage by myself about 50 collectors without this taking more than 10 to 20% of my time. And you may have seen in a previous video that I decided to group the issues Guardium administrator usually face into four major categories. Then the previous video were about spikes, how to handle spikes. Then when the traffic experience hyper variations, right? Very large variations, and you have to deal with that because variations of very large variation put the appliance under stress. And the previous two videos were about how to manage an unbalanced environment with unbalanced traffic, meaning that you've got some appliances receiving more traffic than others and some being clearly overloaded. Now this is the third category we're going to look at. It's when you see growing traffic on your environment and you are basically reaching the limits of your environment. And to detect these, we're going to look at two variables in the buffer usage monitor report, meaning the sniffer memory when it gets close to a third of the total memory, and the MySQL disk usage when it gets close to 90%. In the detection of consistently overloaded appliances, we use the average of variables as a way to rank the performance and the collectors and determine which one had to be looked at from a load standpoint. Here, to detect growing traffic, we need to use not average but time series in order to see evolution of variables over time and to see potentially trends, especially growing trends. Okay, so, and here we're gonna look at, probably you need to look at two cases: when an appliance is already overloaded but under a trend of reducing amount of traffic, and in that case the overload may take care of itself. On the other hand, you may have an appliance that may not be overloaded at this time, but the trend on this appliance is a growing amount of traffic. This appliance may become stressed, and you need to look at those appliances. So that's why it's a bit different to look at consistently overloaded appliances and looking at detecting growing traffic. Okay, and the two variables we recommend to use to look at these are the sniffer memory and the MySQL disk usage. Then if we look at the architecture of collectors as I presented a few times before, then you probably a little bit familiar with this diagram now, and the two variable we recommend to look at to detect a trend of growing amount of traffic are the sniffer memory and the MySQL disk usage. So the memory here, right? So it's especially the memory used by the sniffer, and the other one, it's how full and the trend of it, and how full the MySQL database is. So let's look first at the sniffer memory. The global memory on the collector is divided by Guardium into three equal parts. a third for the OS, a third for the MySQL database, and a third for the sniffer. So the sniffer is limited to a third of the memory. That amount is not allocated by default by the system. The sniffer actually requests memory as it goes, right? So therefore, but it has to stay into within this limit of a third of the memory. But if the sniffer makes a request to get more memory that will give it more than a third of the memory, the watchdog called the nanny will kill it. So the sniffer rarely releases memory, and therefore the memory used by the sniffer always grows. And this is why you need to look at it. If the traffic grows, the memory to be used is probably going to grow as well, and you may reach the limit of a third, right? So you really want to keep this use of memory under a third of the memory. So the second variable we recommend to look at is the MySQL disk usage. So here, for a given retention period, the amount of traffic handled by a collector is stable if the size of MySQL is stable as well, meaning that if you get as much new traffic as you are able to purge older traffic. Then if you purge as much as you get, then the collector and MySQL database is stable, right? So if you see for a given retention period the size of MySQL growing, it's pretty much a good indication that the amount of traffic you receive on this collector is growing, right? And you may at some point have to do something. And the reduction of the retention period is a temporary solution. It's only temporary because if the traffic grows, you're going to have to reduce the retention period more and more, and there is a limit to that. It's 1 day. You cannot have a retention period smaller than 1 day. Then what do you do that day, right? Then what are your options to address growing traffic? You need more capacity. So sooner or later you will need more collector, you will need to add the number of collector, and you're gonna need to expand your footprint. There is no other solution. Then let's demo what we just presented. Then probably a good dashboard is one like this one, where you can recognize the metadata we manage, but once again, this can be whatever is relevant to the company. Here's the wheel of collectors, and we're going to look at the two variables we mentioned, which is here the memory sniffer over time. Okay, then we can see that clearly this one is the one the closest to the third, but here it's quite stable. So this is something you if it's been stable for a very long time, maybe it's okay, right? It's 10. So if you've got 32 gig of memory, you still have some, not much, but you still have some margin, right? Then you need to appreciate and make some assessment, right? Okay, so the second one is this one. Then over time, MySQL disk usage, and then you can see here it's not really obvious, but here it's still growing, right? Then this one, it's 103, right? It's a 79, and here it goes to 80. Then it just went up by 1%. Then this is a little short. Those are test data, and it's on a short period of time. But you can, on a longer period of time, you can see the size, the disk usage for MySQL, and going up during the day and falling at night when the purge takes place. And again, then if you end up with something a little like those roof of old workshops, then it's quite stable. But if you can't detect a trend, but depending where you are, because if you see a trend of growing amount of data, but it's a starting point at 20, you probably have some margin before you are a little bit to be worried. Then you can always as well look at zero receive, right? Then here it's we use that more to look at variations, but here this kind of graph is going to tell you what collectors are the most used and receiving most data, and if there is a trend. Same thing for the analyzer rate. Over a long period of time, you can detect if there is a trend into getting more and more data. Then this takes us to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for watching it. If you want more information, you can just email us at info@context22.com, and also visit our website, which is still being under construction, and be nice, and at context22.com. So thank you very much and have a good day.